Hello there, lovely bitches. Welcome back to An World Peace. I am your host, Maggie Gehlsen-Burnett. Today on the show, I'm so excited to introduce this guest. I have known this guest for, 23, almost 24 years now, which is definitely the longest of any guest I've had on the show. So there's that. But this guest and I used to get into just fucking loads of shit when we were in high school and college. We definitely went into a lot of bars underage together. We definitely hung out with people we were not supposed to. You know the vibes. Our friendship has evolved quite a lot over the years. And you know what? I'm very proud of us. We're no longer dating fuckboys. We're no longer chugging Vegas bombs with sticky shoes in too short of skirts on St. Paddy's Day in the Quad Cities. So for that, I am grateful. Before we get into today's guest, you know the drill here. Just a couple of housekeeping notes of how you can support the show. We are on Patreon. It's patreon.com/AnWorldPeace. That is a way you can support the show on a monthly basis. Otherwise, you can support the show monetarily through Spotify listener support. This is done directly through Spotify. Otherwise, the best way that you can support is by listening, by giving the show a rating on iTunes or Spotify. The ratings help us to pop up into, I say us, like there's more than one fucking person here. It helped me, hello, me, Maggie, help me to get in front of more listeners. So please, consider that when you are listening to an episode. If you liked it, please rate the show, leave a review, all the vibes. Also, feel free to share this on social media with your friends and family, any other little bitches who you think might be interested in this content. All right, let's get into today's guest. We have Allie Necker joining us, Alexandria Necker. She is a dear friend of mine and someone who I just was very excited to interview because I've known Allie for literally decades at this point, and I grew up with Allie quite literally in the same town, same school, all the things. And I really wanted to be able to showcase just kind of the entirety of who she is as a person. And I think this episode did a pretty good job of that. And I just wanted to really be able to showcase her as so much more than, what some people might have known her as growing up or things like that. So yeah, let's get into it. Allie creates one-of-a-kind fine jewelry for those who dare to be different and treasure what makes them unique. In 2020, driven by a desire to forge genuine connections and break away from the conventional sales approach in the jewelry industry, Alexandria, aka Allie, founded A. DeMay Diamonds. Operating beyond the conventional jeweler-client relationship, Alexandria engages one-on-one from her private office, whether in person or virtually. This personalized approach allows her to provide expert guidance, resulting in the creation of timeless and personal jewelry pieces. By working directly with the best diamond and gemstone wholesalers in the world to hand select each stone that goes into a piece of jewelry, Alexandria is able to provide a high-quality product at a price point that beats the best luxury jewelry brands. When Alexandria is not working with clients or designing jewelry, she is pursuing her lifelong dream of obtaining a graduate gemologist degree through the Gemological Institute of America. Her goal is not only to create beautiful and personal jewelry for her clients, but to help educate them so they can ultimately make a decision that best suits them and their needs. Outside of the world of jewelry, Alexandria is a devoted cat mom to 2 fabulous fur babies. She embraces fun and adventure through video games, rocking out at concerts, or even playing the drums herself, snowboarding, and traveling with her life partner, Aaron. Now, listen, I am obviously biased because I love Allie, adore her. I've known her for so fucking long. So I'm biased when I say that she just does a bang up job on designing jewelry and really working with her clients' needs. I know this as a client myself. Allie designed my wedding band. It's gorgeous and, in my opinion, just absolutely brilliant. So Allie worked with me super closely, and this was by the way, this was very close to my wedding. So really big props to Allie on that. So yeah, I just had a great experience with her, and I hope that you can learn something, take away something from this episode, and get to know Allie just in all of her glory. She is just such a multifaceted and complex person, and I love that about her. And I think that we would all be better off if we could take the time to get to know each person on the planet just as complex human beings that we are. So anyway, without further ado, let's welcome Allie to the show. Cool. Well, Allie, thank you so much for joining me. I'm super excited to chat. Okay, so since I've known you forever, I would love to start. I'm gonna start with a couple of questions and we'll go
Perfect.
from there. So first I want to start with a question that I ask a lot of people who come on the show because it's for me it's the best opening question I could possibly ask where we just kind of get to dive right into everything. So in the pageant space, or at least what I've found from the pageant space and having participated in it, is that once you're done competing, and I think hopefully you'll resonate with this, once you're done competing, there's a lot of like undoing that has to happen, right? Sort of an unbecoming, you have to unlearn a lot of things that pageantry taught you, be it, comparing yourself to other people, always thinking that women are competition, etc., whatever. So I have found that a lot of, my, greatest moments in life were came right after I had kind of an undoing or like this unbecoming of self. So I would love to know, and it doesn't have to be just one, time, but I would like to know sort of about your great undoing and like when you think that was. And because I, having known you personally, like I can pinpoint
You're
like
like, I
maybe
know when it
4 or 5.
happened.
Yeah.
Maybe
I'm
multiple
like,
times.
yeah. And that's totally fair. Most people have like multiple times, like they're like, which one do you want? But I would just love to know from your standpoint, like which one was most impactful and profound in leading you to where you are now?
Oh man.
It's a loaded question.
Not
I
to
totally,
reply with the pageant answer. That's a great
yeah,
question. Um, it is. But
100%.
it's so interesting because I think most of my undoing didn't come from habits or learning through pageants,
Mm.
or I guess I don't have quite as long of a pageant career as maybe some of the pros, but
I mean, to relate it to pageants either. I
yeah.
kind of use that as an example because
Yeah,
it's my
yeah.
big,
I think that I think there's two that I can think of, and I think one of them was for me going to college, which
Mm,
happened right after I competed for Miss Iowa.
right.
And it was the first time that I was on my own out of the house. There was like a level of distance from my hometown,
Hmm.
which is funny because the idea is like, well, I'm gonna go to college and no one will know me. And I'm just gonna start all over and like it's a city. And I'm like, well, first of all, it was Iowa City. We're an hour and a half from home. And that's not how that works. So
Right.
like I think I went through a yes man period, like the movie to an extent, where I
Hmm.
was just like, I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah.
Whatever, I'm just gonna do it. I don't know if this is going to be a terrible mistake or a really good story, but like trying to lean into trusting my own gut and figuring things out and trying to fail or make some mistakes. That's like
Yeah.
not a, I don't want to say it wasn't allowed,
Hmm.
but it wasn't something that was encouraged. I think um, a way of growing up and having your best face on all the time, and lack of vulnerability and authenticity. And I joke that I ran away. I ran away to from Iowa to Denver, and I think that was another process of me like really figuring out what do I want for myself. And okay, let's like totally separate from who I thought I was or who people thought I was, and like let's, and I say separate or detach in like a healthy way, not like I'm
Sure.
cutting everybody off and like it's just flatline.
Yeah, totally.
But like who am I outside of the constructs that I grew up with and I know and who people want me to be or see me as? And then I really did get to go where nobody knew me for a period of
Yeah,
time and
right.
kind of figure that stuff out. And I think I've been on a more present journey too of like mental health. So I think kind of with the second part of me going to Denver is also realizing that like, okay, how do we become the most authentic self and like embrace vulnerability and realizing that holding it all in all the time and always putting out the tough face doesn't necessarily lead you to like a very connected life.
Yeah.
with people around you. And it also, I've had a history of having like, I would say like a lot of physical symptoms that were manifestations of stress and anxiety. So
Mm.
working through that has been kind of the present phase part of all of this where we're at.
Yeah, totally. That's a really like lovely answer. I mean it's, obviously I'm like biased because I've known you for what I mean like 20 years, over 20 years at this point,
A lifetime.
which is so wild to say out loud, right? I'm like, "Oh my God, I've known you
It
since I
is
was like 5 or
wild.
6." Like, but yeah, I mean it's so lovely to like see all of that sort of manifest in ways like how you present yourself and like what you've done with your business. And it's for me just kind of watching as like a bystander. It's very cool and lovely to have seen sort of the evolution of Allie. So um
Thank you.
piggybacking off of that, we'll just dive right into it since you mentioned it and we ended on this note. So you have had a lot of physical stuff that has gone on in your life, and I I remember it starting like in high school, and I don't know if that's an accurate, representation for
Mhm.
yourself, but that's when I remember it
Totally.
all kind of like coming to fruition. So walk me through that and like how that all kind of came to be and what you're still sort of figuring out with some of those physical symptoms.
Yeah, I think so. It's always tough when several things seem to kind of ignite all at the same time.
Right.
And I think as humans, we try to connect the dots and go, "Well, what was it?"
Mm-hmm.
And I think oftentimes we go, well, it has to be the most logical thing that happened. And I
Yeah.
think for me at that time, there was a few things that had happened. And one of them being a the traumatic event. I had a very traumatic event that occurred, and I also got a vaccine
Mm-hmm.
that at the time was in my person, I'm not a doctor. Let's start with this disclosure. I am not a doctor. I thought maybe one day I would be a doctor. Different
We
career
all
path.
did.
We all did. I do like a different type of science, just physical health aside, whatnot. I think at the time that seemed like the logical thing that had happened was that I had had a really bad reaction to a vaccine.
Sure. Yeah.
And maybe it was all of these things, could have been all
Mhm.
of them. It could have
Right.
been one thing was the catalyst for another. But what I've realized in the last 2 years, probably, or I think probably 2 years, although time work with COVID, it could have been
Yeah.
3 or 4. Um, is that like so I guess not dealing with what had happened and not actually acknowledging that manifested physically in a lot of really terrible symptoms.
Yeah.
Maybe again, weakened immune system from vaccine or vice versa. Something didn't go right in that web of events.
Right.
Um, and so I mean, it was rough. I wasn't able to exercise. I dropped out of all my high school sports, which was
Right.
uh emotionally painful and difficult. That's where my baton career more or less ended as
Uh,
well. Although, yeah, I think I did what I could to turn that into a positive learning experience.
mhm.
What's interesting is that I don't think I learned all my lessons
Mhm.
there, of course. I'm like, and if you're not acknowledging what happens, it's doomed to repeat itself.
Right.
If we don't study history, it's doomed to repeat itself.
Yeah.
So I also ended up having a hard time right out of college with some
Mhm.
health things, just like bizarre, random, like heavy
Sure.
metal poisoning, mold
Yeah.
toxicity, a bunch of things like that, just a cluster,
Totally.
cluster of things. But I think, and I kept going like, why does this keep happening to me? I
Mhm.
don't understand. Um, I'm I'm quote unquote doing it all right. I don't
Mhm.
get it. And I'm like, well, there's a lesson you haven't learned there.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that lesson was like prioritizing mental health, um, learning to even acknowledge what emotions you have.
Yeah.
Um, I have a lovely vocabulary wheel of my emotions that I result to on a regular basis now. I'm like, what one was that? I'm like, is it maybe this? And I'm like, oh my gosh, the stuff that they should teach you in like kindergarten that nobody taught me.
100%. Oh my
That
God.
needs to be a class. That needs to be a
Yes.
class that we teach children is like identifying your emotions and like, what are
Yes.
you feeling? And like, it's okay to have feelings. Now,
Yeah.
what do we want to do with those feelings? How do we want to acknowledge hurt,
Yeah.
pain, rejection, sadness, all
Yeah.
of those things, and also acknowledge the really happy, positive emotions that we have. So that's been a new learning lesson for me. And I think um, interestingly enough, learning where emotions sit in your body too.
Mm-hmm.
This
Yeah.
is this is gonna sound like some real hippie shit from someone
Oh,
who's
well,
who hasn't experienced it yet, but like it might sound crazy, but usually the crazy things are true in this world that we live in. So
yeah, exactly. No, I don't think that's like hokey at all. I actually just interviewed my friend Janie and we were talking about this. She's a yoga instructor and we were talking about how, we've both been in therapy for an extended period of time and I told her, I've been in therapy for 8 years, which I hadn't really realized like how long it, like how long it had been, you're sort of
yeah.
like, oh my God, I started there and now I'm here. And again, time warp of COVID and like all of it. So I told her, I was like, I've been working with my current therapist for 4 of those 8 though. And I feel like I just got to a place in session with her after processing all this shit where I can actually like sit with a feeling and like feel it and understand how it feels in my body versus being like, I'm angry and now like immediately moving away and being like, well, why am I angry? And like intellectualizing all of it. And I think like, especially as women, we tend to over intellectualize things because we want to make sense of them. We want them to go away. And I feel like it took 8 years of therapy for me to finally be like, oh, okay, I'm feeling anger towards this person. I'm gonna just go ahead and like sit with that for a minute and I can identify like where it's at in my body and like, and I'm just like, it's crazy to me that I wasn't taught how to do that. Like when, I wasn't taught how to feel things. I wasn't taught how to name emotion or feeling. I wasn't taught how to emotionally regulate. So then, we get to be in our early 20s and we wonder why we have autoimmune issues, why
Mhm.
we have, all of these panic attacks all the time, why we can't
Totally.
sleep and why we feel like shit and we're only, 24, 25,
It's
whatever.
terrible. And I'm like,
And
but
I'm
also
like,
like, no
yeah,
wonder, no
exactly.
wonder.
Like, yeah.
It's and I think too, like being and this ties into, competition and
Uh,
success. And I think I always believe that if I don't acknowledge the emotions and they're not there, then I can keep going to get anxious and have a random panic attack to be completely out of the blue prior because you're feeling some things and we need to get that out. Like it's okay to be nervous. It's okay
uh,
to wonder if you're gonna suck. It's okay if you go out and drop your baton 7 times. It was two
totally.
minutes of life and we'll move on from there.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it's complicated stuff when you're a kid trying to navigate all that.
Yeah, it's complicated stuff when your like frontal lobe isn't fully fucking formed. Like, and you're
Right?
just like literally like walking through life like, well, I don't fucking know what I'm doing, but like, and I mean nobody knows what the fuck they're doing ever, so whatever. But like, yeah, it's complex when there's like especially as you relate it to competition or pageantry or whatever, it's like it's complex when, you're competing against other women and trying to, win a title and like be beautiful and smart and all of the things that these 5 random strangers on a panel want. But you're also trying to navigate like pretty heavy shit, like, from childhood or from early adolescence. And like nobody talks about that as you are in those moments. So I
Totally.
I wish it was more widely talked about. And I think maybe it is now becoming that way for the next generation, but sure as fuck wasn't for us. So anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
um, so I want to kind of dive into this side of things, which maybe we'll tie in. But okay, so you are from a very obviously prominent family in the Quad Cities. And so if for those who don't know, I'll let Allie kind of explain, her family and history and all of that. You now own your own very successful jewelry business, and you have done that, on by your own volition, and you have like detached sort of, you've branched out into your own sort of subset away from your family business and you have your own now. What was that like to sort of like detach yourself from the Necker's Jewelers, you know, kind of like thing that was, that has been going on in the Quad Cities for, what, like decades and decades, and to try to start your own thing? Like, I can't help but wonder what that experience was like.
Yeah, it's so yeah, for those that don't know, my family owns Necker's Jewelers in Davenport, DeWitt, Iowa. It's a 120-year-old business.
This is over a
Um,
century.
yeah. It's so they've been around for a minute.
Yeah.
And I really have a lot of admiration for their story and their journey. And it started with a German immigrant in DeWitt. It was like 1880s,
Wow.
so a long time ago. But we might have to do a fact check after this. But
Yeah.
I think that
We'll
was
get
it
the
was around
documents.
then. And then my grandpa and my grandma, Dorothy and Don, started the business after the Great Depression.
Wow.
So their story is a unique story unto its own, and he was a watchmaker. So I love I have to pause. I love like the couple story there with them and being like,
Yeah.
we're gonna do this. It's like their story is such an American dream story, and I have so much like respect and love and appreciation for the big risk that they took because it forever changed our family.
Mhm.
And I think for the best too. And then my dad and my uncle now own it, and I would say that they're the visionaries and the muscle that turned it into the business that it is today, which is really amazing. And again, I admire and respect them too. And it's always funny when you're young, like you don't know how special some things are until you also step away from them or you get a
Yeah.
little bit older.
Yeah.
Uh, but I mean, I grew up on the floors literally. Like I would go in to work with them, and it was take your daughter to work day
Yeah.
whenever I wanted to come in and hang out and look at sparkly things and pretty stuff. And it was one of my first jobs, wrapping gifts there during Christmas time. So
Amazing. I
yeah,
love
so
that.
so it's always been a part of me. I have always been very creative, always very drawn to art,
Mhm.
whether it was drawing or painting or even I view my makeup and my hair as art, my
Yeah.
daily art that I
Totally.
get to do.
Yeah.
Um, but I just and you know me well, I'm a bit of a rebel and I don't necessarily fit. I'm always doing my own thing, and I've always been doing my own thing since I was a kid. It'd be
Yeah.
like, okay, all the kids are over here playing in the sandbox, and Allie's in some other random corner doing her own thing, and
Yeah.
that's what she does.
Right.
Um, and I think that for me has been historically a tough place to be, feeling like you don't fit or
Mhm.
you don't really fit in.
Mhm.
And so I think I didn't really feel like there was a place for me there with where the company was at. And also I think I say that specifically because I really wanted to create and design.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally.
I don't I don't love being on a sales floor, and
Mhm.
I think it feels highly competitive.
Yeah.
And someone who's been in competition for a lot of their life, I was like, I think I need to go do my artsy thing a little bit.
Yeah.
I want
For
to
sure.
I want to be in the creative zone more.
Yeah.
And so I've actually worked for several other jewelry stores prior to starting my own business
Mhm.
on this journey. In college, I worked for a jeweler in Iowa City who did not all custom, but they were doing custom.
Mm.
And to me, that was super interesting and exciting. I was
Yeah.
just like, what is this? Like, we're not, we don't have a 3D printer at Neckers, and we're not doing some of the things that they were at that time.
Yeah.
Neckers now does do a lot of custom, but for me, I was like, I want to go like explore and learn, and let's see what this jeweler is doing.
Yeah.
And so that was a really great experience for me. It's like my first kind of opportunity to learn from another successful family and follow what they're doing. And so what year was that? Like, it's so crazy. I'm like
20.
2014, I think I was working for
Yeah.
them. So in 2014, I decided I wanted to really lean into jewelry design.
Mhm.
And I traveled to Lafayette, Louisiana, where one of the biggest jewelry manufacturers in the country is based.
Wow.
And they did a week-long CAD, so computer aided design class on just jewelry. So I really leaned into my nerd. Like, I love
Yeah,
the
that's
computer, I
amazing.
love art. This is like, let's do it.
That's
So that was a really great, like, independent experience for me to learn what does this side of jewelry look like.
yeah.
Now I don't think that I had expected to start my business when I did.
Yeah.
I had worked for a couple other jewelers in Denver, and with every experience I've taken away something that I really love. And
Hmm.
I've also experienced enough that I'm like, I hate this. Like this just doesn't work. What am I doing? Like, I don't,
Yeah.
and like, I think some of the greatest creations come from pain.
Hmm.
And from that feeling of like, I don't fit here. Let's stop the stuff that just does not work, whether it doesn't work for me or it doesn't work for clients. And I think in particular, I just got tired of going to work for jewelers that didn't share the same vision, or
Yeah.
customer wasn't a primary focus.
Hmm.
And so it was in 2020, so obviously prime pandemic special.
Yeah.
Just terrible. But like, we realized that period of time where we weren't just in pajamas all day at home, and like,
Mm.
we gotta live with this for some time,
Yeah.
was emerging. And I owe a lot of credit to my boyfriend that I was dating at the time, and still am dating, very happily. He's just like, why don't you just start your own business?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, it's too soon. It's
Yeah.
too soon. I'm not
Right.
ready.
Hmm.
Um, but like, once I get an idea in my head, I'm like, I gotta do it. Like, we gotta
Yeah.
jump. I'm
Yeah.
jumping out of the plane. Let's go.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I started my business in November of 2020, and it's it's been like a really good learning experience. There's something new along the way that I'm navigating each year.
Hmm.
But to tie it back into kind of the original, what's that like working outside of your family's business?
Yeah.
I think it's been one of the best things that I could do for myself, and I think for them too. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in my independent person, but it's also allowed us to grow close as a family, I think,
Yeah.
in a different kind of ways. Like, you're an independent adult, you've got your own job and career, and like, you're
Right.
out there doing it. I think it's been really good, and I love, like, they're my Neckers Jewelers family, everybody that
Yeah.
works there. So like,
Yeah.
every time I go home for Christmas, I'm like, that's the first stop. I'm
Yeah.
like, hey.
That's
So
amazing.
it's great. So many of those people have been working there for my lifetime, and sometimes even longer. So it's
Yeah.
a really special place. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. I love that. You said that each year in your business you are navigating something different. So what have you been navigating so far this year?
Yeah. I
Well,
think
maybe not this year, maybe 2023 and
yeah.
on.
Yeah. Well, starting my business, I'm like, I don't ironically, even though I have a business degree in both marketing and management, like, I'm not good at numbers. So for me, I was like, I need to I need to figure out my books
Yeah.
and QuickBooks and all of these,
Mm.
like how do you do your sales tax and different, it was like my initial learning curve of like, I really hate this, but I gotta figure it out.
Yeah. Oh my
Because
God,
it's,
totally.
and it's just, I'm still one person. So I don't
Yeah.
have a team that I'm like working with on a daily basis. My challenge in recent, since fall of 2023 is like marketing.
Mm.
And again, there's so much that I didn't learn in marketing school. Like,
Yeah.
all that stuff is outdated by like 2 years past the print date.
Right. Yeah, which
It
is
moves
so
so
wild.
fast.
Yeah. It's like,
It
here's
moves
my
so
business
fast.
degree. I don't know fuck all about business. Like,
Friends are like, what did you
Nothing
learn? And
that's
I'm like,
fulfilling.
nothing. Just one single tear.
Literally.
Um, no, it's I learned a lot more that had nothing to do with business in college.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot. And I think specifically in the past, like 2, 3 years, like now TikTok is a thing. Now
Yeah.
Reels are a thing. You are not just the person making the product. You now have to become a video editor, a copywriter, an editor. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if I already said editor, but it's in there again if I did.
But yeah, it's like you
It's
have to
just
be
so
everything.
much.
Yeah,
It's so
exactly.
much. And I think I'm navigating like how much of that do I want to do?
Mm,
And like, if I don't want to do that, like we got to figure out some trade-offs or something that works.
yeah, totally.
In my heart of hearts, I like being the customer facing person, client facing person who like, we sit down and we talk,
Yeah.
like, let's get into it. And I like the artistry of it, the creation process. I do not love the
Yeah.
marketing part of it. So
Yeah,
that has been a challenge for me recently,
totally.
but I'm feeling in 2024, I'm like ready to dive in and like give it my best effort.
Yeah, totally. It's it never ceases to amaze me, like small business owners. And I think, I only speak to this after having tried and ended a lot of like business ventures because I think it's so important to figure out what you love, right? But it's equally as important, I say this a lot, it's equally as important to figure out what you hate. Um, I did a mini-sode like right before the new year on quitting and like what that looks like, how that's presented in my life, things I've quit, things I've tried, things I've, ended for the time being, at least, whatever. And so much of them were things that I got into, and I just had and they all ended up kind of spiraling into something different from what I wanted it to be. But a big crux of it is that like I had no fucking idea that there was just so many moving parts to like operating a small business, which obviously is like the dumbest, most like naive thing you could say about
No.
owning a small business. But it's like, yeah, you really do. You have to be the marketing, you have to be the face of the brand. Like, so if you're not comfortable showcasing your face on social media, it's sort of like, okay, how are we
How do
going to
we
do this?
work around this? Yeah.
Right. And like, then you have to be the email contact, and then you have to do invoices, and then you have to do accounting and taxes. And I'm just like, holy fuck. Like, for small businesses that are just starting out, that's like a super daunting task to take on. It's like you're wearing 47 hats. It's like the quote is like, I quit my 9 to 5 so that I could
You
have
could work
so I could work
24/7.
24/7. Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
literally that. But I
Yeah.
remember, when my dad started his business, I remember those days too of like those early days of him getting into voiceover, and like my sister Molly and I were like, this was back in the day of like when marketing yourself was like sending out postcards to talent agencies, hoping they would like go to your website and listen to your reel, or like your portfolio. And so like Molly and I would sit around, and my dad would pay us because like it was like a summer job essentially, and we would put stamps on these postcards that my dad would send out to talent agencies like all over the country. And I'm like, so he was like printing, getting like postage, he was sending. I mean, it's so much easier now with social media, obviously, but it's like you have to really respect the grind of like
For
your
sure.
dad, my dad, like all these people who built businesses before the time of like social media, and when you
It's
could like
crazy.
automate shit and QuickBooks and like, all the things that make our lives easier. But
It's crazy. Yeah. And
yeah.
I think it's a classic thing too, is first of all, it's so easy to judge.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just blanket statement on everything,
Yep.
but like it's so easy to judge. First of all, like there's the classic thing where it's like, you're so lucky.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, there's no luck involved whatsoever. My God, like I'm just, and I think it's easy to see where someone is at, or of course in this day and age too, like social media, and be
Of
like,
course.
they're killing it, they must have just really gotten lucky. And I'm
Yeah.
like, for some people, sure. But I think sometimes that luck comes after 8 years, busting your ass and hoping and praying that it's just
Yeah.
gonna work and like someone will believe in you and see your efforts and your talent and like
Yeah.
I can remember seeing my dad, and also retail Christmas, your
Oh,
dad is not present.
yeah,
Like,
literally no.
so, and I mean, I say that like he was absentee. He was not. He was around for everything. But like it's very different than like what a lot of people's holidays are like
Yeah,
when someone
totally.
works in jewelry. And so like we'd show up to the store to say hi and get a hug and a kiss and go on our way. Or like, they come home, your parents come home tired and it's a lot. And then after Christmas Day, they go back to work again.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
but it's like, it's easy to go, well, they're so lucky, or it just, something worked. I don't know what it was. And I was like, it was hustle.
Yeah,
It was hustle,
100%. It
hard
was hard
work,
work. Yeah.
stress, like
Yeah.
stress. That's a lot of stress starting your own business. And
Uh,
I think too, like to go with the quitting, I
mhm.
feel like that's something that people don't understand. And sometimes it's either, well, they quit, or it's, I should have quit way sooner than this. So
Yeah.
there's like that sweet spot of figuring out like, do I enjoy this? What works for me? And
Mhm.
like, is it actually something reasonable that I can change or work through? Or
Yeah.
like, let's just move on. Let's just move
Yeah.
on and do something different. Like, this is not
Yeah.
bringing me joy anymore, or it's not fulfilling the original intent. So like, let's do something
Yeah.
else. Let's move on.
Totally. Yeah. I wish I had known when to fucking quit when I was doing pageants.
No.
I wish I knew when to give it the fuck up, okay? Like that's one thing that I wish I
It's so
knew.
hard. It's always so much easier to look back in retrospect and like pinpoint it on the timeline. Same thing with dating
Yes.
too.
Yep, 100%. I'm like,
You know what
I
I
should have
mean?
dumped him then. I should
Yep.
have gotten the fuck out. I should have left that city at this point, and I should have stopped doing pageants at this point. Like,
Hindsight is always 2020.
yes, exactly. Okay, amazing. So I love all of that. It's such amazing insight. And like to your point, I think it's so easy for people to, maybe look at you or look at, whoever the fuck and say, well, her dad owns a jewelry business, so like, and think that it was like the Jeff Bezos route of like, your dad must have given you like, this egregious lump sum of money to
I
like,
wish.
yeah, exactly. So,
I'm
so
like,
like
oh wow, that must be
it's so
nice.
easy for people to
Yeah.
assume those things. And I think, yeah, to your point, like the social media aspect is not helping anybody in that case. But I would love to know, like, from your perspective, you are going on year 4 of your business. What has been the hardest thing in terms of your mindset that you've had to really kind of double down on or hone in on that was maybe a really big challenge when you first started, that you can kind of feel like you're feeling the shift a little bit now that you're kind of more
Yeah.
into year 4?
I think the initial feeling when you first start anything is who cares? Who
Yeah.
cares? Like seriously, why? Like, why would someone go to me over someone
Yeah.
else? Like, what makes me special? And like, maybe I'm just a little, little bit self-judgmental.
No, I
Um,
totally feel that. Yeah.
but it's so interesting because now I'm like, I know, and I've had enough time doing my own business to be like, I know without a doubt why someone would choose me over someone else.
Mm.
And if not, then I'm like, you're lost, man. We could have made something really awesome and it would have checked all the boxes.
Yeah. Like
And
you're
I
not my
think,
people then. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I think too, there's something that I think I've always been, I shouldn't say always, but when I was younger, I think my expertise was dismissed quite a bit because I was young. So
Hmm.
there's something nice about rolling up on 30 that sounds like there's some, okay, people will actually take me seriously.
Yeah,
Um
totally.
that's like the side of it, but spinning back to the positive side of it, like I I feel really confident in my craft and the amount of time and effort that I put into
Mm.
it and like the learning processes and also with working with so many other
Yeah.
companies. I know that what I offer is just completely different and unique than
Yeah.
what most people get to experience or probably even know is out there.
Yeah.
Most places you don't get the one-on-one sit down time. I'm
No.
like,
Yeah.
let's have some champagne
Yeah.
or coffee or whatever, and like this time is yours.
Yeah.
So like, let's talk about your hopes and dreams and not just talk about like, okay, so what do you want?
Yeah.
Because
Right.
sometimes too, I think it's hard to know what you want unless you really explore a little bit deeper and you think about how is this going to work in my everyday, like if it's an engagement ring, how does this
Yeah.
work in my everyday life? What is my lifestyle like?
Yeah.
Maybe you come to realize through that deep conversation that you actually don't want the classic ring that
Yeah.
your mom or grandmother would like you to have. And maybe you want something that's like edgy and cool and has some rock star flair. And same thing for men too. I think buying jewelry as a man can be incredibly intimidating
Hmm.
because it's probably their first experience when it comes to getting an engagement ring or their wedding bands.
Yeah.
I have the unique privilege of being a tomboy or growing up a tomboy. So I've got a lot of guy friends who go through the engagement ring process and they're like, Allie, I don't know what the hell I'm doing and I need
Yeah.
your help. And
Yeah.
that's just, it's so nice to be the person that gets to help be like, okay, we're just gonna cover all the bases.
Yeah.
Let's sit down,
Totally.
let's talk about it. And just creating an open conversation
Hmm.
that isn't attached to being like, you must get said thing, and this
Right.
works for everybody.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so neat. I mean, yeah. And to your point, it's like, I would have never, I can speak both as a friend and a customer, like that, I would have never gotten the experience working with you. Like, I would have never gotten that at what the fuck, like K Jewelers or whatever the fuck. Like, I'm like, it's hard for me to even, I mean, I'm so privileged because I have obviously known your family for so long. So like, there is no wrong way for me to go about this. Like my engagement ring is from Neckers, my wedding band is from you. I have not had a bad experience buying jewelry. So like I guess for me it's like I'm like, why wouldn't you go to the local person that like knows you and you've grown up with them, or like, they know your family in some capacity, or they're able to create something really beautiful and unique that's not at every underneath every showcase in town. Like, why wouldn't you choose that type of person to create something that's you're gonna be wearing every fucking day? Like that to me is, again, I'm privileged in that sense because I recognize and understand that most people, when they're considering buying like, a very sentimental or even expensive piece of jewelry, like don't have that option or don't really consider that an option because they don't know a
totally.
family who's, yeah, been around in
It's
the jewelry business
it's so
forever.
interesting too because I hear a lot of stories that people start rewind. I'm a very curious person. And
Hmm.
so anytime someone says that they've had X experience, I'm I'm like, if it doesn't go along with what I have experienced in my own life, I start to go, well, is like that's so interesting. And I wonder
Wow.
if that, like, how often does that happen? Is that a one-off experience? Is that, does everybody go through this? And so when
Fascinating.
it comes to like jewelry, um, I had never been in any other jewelry stores other than the ones behind the counter in or at a desk or whatever the nature of it was.
Yeah.
And until I moved to Denver. And
Wow.
it was, so one of the common stories that I've heard is like, I felt intimidated. I felt like people were judging me. I
Mm,
felt looked down upon for my clothing
yeah.
or my hair or um my tattoos or my piercings or
Yeah.
whatever. Like, I'm just to rattle off some of the topics, and I'm like, that's terrible.
Yeah.
And there is a jewelry store that's very famous that I've never been into until I moved to Denver. And my dad was like, well, you've never been into blank store. And I'm like, no. And he's like, well, let's go in. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I
Yeah. Like,
immediately felt the fear of going into a different, very prestigious store.
yeah.
And the experience was exactly like what everybody had said.
Oh.
And I mean,
Yeah.
I have my hippie pants on. Those are my casual, that's what I call them. You've probably seen them. Um,
Flare looking ones.
oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah. They're definitely on my Instagram somewhere. But yeah, I was more casual as with my dad, but you could just tell that like, I'm like, dude, this is a real thing that people experience. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want, like, judgment again should never be a part of the equation. I want people to feel like comfortable, celebrated,
Yeah.
like have a good time. This like jewelry buying is stressful enough. Like, let's make it a party and have a good time, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's almost like you bring up a good point in sort of the jewelry industry, which I guess I hadn't really, again, this is incredibly like naive and privileged of me to say, I guess I hadn't really considered, which is that like there's a very distinct, probably differentiation of like class when you're talking about like going into a jewelry store, like, or it's like could potentially be, I could see this happening for sure with like some big box names, a very classist like experience, like where if you don't look XYZ way or you don't have, even XYZ credit card to pay, or like you can't, like pay this way or like whatever, it would be an experience of like that judgment and just that kind of like fear being put
Yeah.
into you
And
of,
it's
you
so
know,
weird to me. I
yeah,
think because I grew up being quite judged based on my appearance
sure,
and
yeah,
um like deep down in my core, I describe myself as being a nerd and a rock and roller.
yeah,
So I'm like, I understand that humans do this. We make assumptions. It helps our brains be at peace.
yeah,
But it's
totally,
like I think I'm so anti-judging people based on how they look and
yeah,
nominal written on paper things that I'm just
yeah,
like, I'm not doing that here. There's not
yeah,
too many things about the jewelry industry that I actually have to say that are negative, but experiencing that for myself was disheartening, I should
yeah,
say.
for sure. It's like I just always think of like the moment in Pretty Woman where she like goes into the store and they're like, um, they like don't let her shop because she like is dressed a certain way. It's like I always think of that moment. Um,
That's so fun. I need to rewatch that movie. It's been a minute. I've seen it
it's,
once. I need to rewatch it again though.
for
And
some
then
reason,
we can chat about the scene again and
yes,
I'll
okay.
watch in horror.
Let me know when you watch it because for some reason Pretty Woman, I like have a list of 5 movies I can like fall asleep to, no problem. And at the top of the list, if anybody like knows me very intimately, like is Casper. It's so bizarre, I can't
Oh,
explain
I
it.
love
I have
Casper.
no idea where it came from.
Cause he's an
Um,
adorable, friendly
yeah, because
ghost.
he's friendly and it's like
He
Christina
could curl
Ricci.
up next
Like,
to you and just,
yeah, he like serves as a
he looks
pillow.
like a plushie a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Who's very friendly. So yeah.
Yeah,
And Pretty Woman like clawed its way up that list this year somehow. And so I would find myself like Ty was always like, "What movie are you gonna fall asleep to tonight?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I think I'm like between Casper and Pretty Woman." And he's like, "Such interesting choices." I'm like, "I know, right? Like, who would have
that's
thought
great.
that we'd
You know
be."
what I've found is that for me, it's the music in movies. There are
Yeah.
certain movies, it does not
Yes.
matter how intense it is, or like, I shouldn't say intense, interesting. Like,
Yeah.
I could be totally engaged in the story, but like, Lord of the Rings is one of those movies that like I
100%.
gotta watch during the daytime
Yep.
because the music is so soothing. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go fall asleep in the Shire and everything will be okay.
Yes,
The rest of the movie
100%.
won't happen, but
Yeah.
that's where I
Oh,
fall
yeah.
asleep in real life and would if I was
For
there.
sure.
So
Yeah. Harry
I
Potter,
totally get
Lord
it.
of the
Harry
Rings.
Potter is great.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Yes.
totally
It
feel it.
must be I'm gonna make a bet that it's a music thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Love that. Amazing. Okay. So last question, and then we'll get into the World Peace section.
Okay, cool.
So where you've sort of alluded to this in text messages with me, but I don't want to like just word vomit it out. Where do you see your business going in the next, I don't know, 5 years or so? Like what's next for you?
Designing a piece for Lady Gaga. I'm just kidding.
Beautiful. Perfect.
Um,
We'll manifest that. It's
yes,
fine.
yes, everyone help me out here. Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think I want to keep doing what I'm doing, and I meet new people along the way. And, I say that jokingly, but there's always some truth in every joke. I would absolutely love to be designing jewelry for artists.
Yeah.
I use eclectic in a good way. I say
Yeah.
weird too, but I love the word weird. It's a good word.
Yeah,
Like if
exactly.
Steven Tyler and Lady Gaga came to me and they're like, make us jewelry, we want to work with you, that would make my life. That'd be
Amazing.
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm a artsy, creative, musical person myself.
Yeah.
So I would love that someday if my clients included rock stars and musicians.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I think there might be some other things I consider in the future too, like maybe I'll design a line of my own
Yeah.
jewelry. Maybe that means opening a store somewhere someday.
Yeah.
It's funny because that's something that I was not interested in a
Yeah.
few years
Yeah.
ago.
Totally.
But it's funny how growth and mind shift oh my gosh, I can't talk. How shits in your mindset
Totally.
happen.
I
And it was a tongue twister. But yeah, so I think yeah, there's anything is on the table. So I'm just excited to keep doing what I'm doing and work with some more wonderful people. So
Yeah, amazing. I love it. My sincere hope is that I'll be coming to you for I want a spacer band in between. Like I use this guy right now, but I want another one that's like a emerald, like the long way, you know. Anyway,
yeah, East
um
West way.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, let's
Um
do it.
so yeah, I'll be contacting you shortly. Um
Perfect.
Cool. Let's get into World War or World Peace.
Okay.
So, for those unfamiliar with the show, World War, World Peace is a section of the show where I ask the person I'm interviewing about topics that typically pertain to them in some capacity or have pertained to their life in some capacity, and they tell me what the fuck they think of them. So the first one that we're going to talk about, I can't wait to get your opinion on this. Okay. Jewelry designers, I won't say designers. I think that's too like nice to say. So jewelry accounts on Instagram that are like the moissanite only companies. And they're like what's a good example? East West Gemco is like an example I have. What are the vibes on that? Do we trust them? What are I feel like they're
Um,
kind of shady, right? Like they
you
have to be
know,
like
it's tough. Again, judgment is thing I'm sensitive
we
to.
spent like 40 minutes talking
Yes, I'm
about
like,
judgment.
okay, moral of the story. Let's just title this Allie does not like judgment. Gosh. No, I think first of all, I think I would need to do some research. I think though I'm highly skeptical.
Yeah.
Having a background working for a very profitable, very marketing heavy,
Yes.
and again, not, I don't think they're moissanite heavy, but like lab diamond heavy. We
Mm-hmm.
promote that we're eco-friendly
Mm-hmm.
and our prices seem to be too good to be true.
Yeah.
No, there's a catch in most of those things, and I've seen the
Mhm.
pain on the other side of it. So
Mm,
I don't know if I can speak to the specific company, but I'm gonna say World War
for sure.
because
Yeah.
I don't want like people shouldn't be angry and upset and distraught over engagement rings or personal jewelry that's falling
Yeah.
apart or
Right.
doesn't hold up over the years. So I'm going
Yeah.
World War with that one.
What are the thoughts on like moissanite as a whole? Like, what are your thoughts on that just generally? I'm just curious.
Yeah. I think that it's so funny. Whatever my people want, I will give it to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you want moissanites, if you want lab diamonds, if you want
Mm,
lab created gemstones, anything is okay in my book.
mm-hmm.
And the reason
Sure.
being is that like different things work for different people.
Right.
One thing that I'm very skeptical of, and like this is my platform I will stand on, is that they are not more eco-friendly than natural diamonds.
Mm,
That is
mm-hmm.
my hot take.
Oh,
There's
that's
been a lot
fascinating.
of research on it. So I would be wary of any company that's using the guise of lab created stones in general as being more eco-friendly
Mm,
because it's a great marketing tactic. They
fascinating.
know what millennials want. They know that we care about the
Yeah.
environment and the earth, but like it uses a lot of energy to create lab created stones. So
Yeah.
like what is our trade-off here in terms of that?
Right.
Um, so far
Fascinating.
it has not been more eco-friendly, but there might be more studies that come out or more technological advances that
Sure.
change that. But
Yeah.
that is, yeah. But I think that
That's
they're
so
great. They're
crazy.
sparkly, they're fun, and I've had people that come to me, they're like, I want moissanite because I love how much it sparkles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Moissanite in general actually is 2 times more refractive than diamonds.
No
So
fucking way.
so if you're like, I love the disco ball rainbow visuals coming off my stones,
Mm,
it's great. I think it's also great for someone who wants to be budget conscious. Maybe
yeah.
they want to upgrade a ring later, so they're doing moissanite for now. I think it's great. I have no problems with it.
Insane.
Yeah,
I had no idea it was like 2 times as sparkly.
yeah.
Because when I got my band, I just was like, holy fuck, our entire house is falling apart. I have this amount of money I can give you for this wedding band. But I will tell you that I do get compliments all the time on how sparkly my band is, and it's a moissanite band. So,
It's great. I think too, like moissanites now, they're really good looking. Like there was a few, like maybe I would say like 10 years ago where moissanites, it was like a toss up on what you get
mm,
when you order them in. Like, are
right,
they going to look the right color? Are they,
right.
what are they gonna look like? We don't necessarily know sometimes until you
Yeah.
get it in. Today, I'm like, it's consistently across the board, like they look good. So,
Damn.
yeah.
That's like so comforting to hear from somebody who's a full expert in this realm. Love that. Okay, cute. Okay, so next one I have for you. I need to know the thoughts and vibes on pageants generally. Just like generally in the year 2024, what are we thinking about pageants now that you have been removed from them for, an ample period of time?
10
What
years.
over, yeah, 10 years. What are the vibes? What are we thinking?
It's interesting. I don't know, man. It's like I was gonna say we didn't really talk about like my personal pageant story, but like my experience in that was very different than what most people's was,
Yeah,
and that I was like, I'm literally just doing this because I want to get my platform out into the world and like really do some like heavy community service work,
yes.
but no one will listen to a 17-year-old talk about anti-bullying.
Yeah,
And
right.
so for me, I was like, I don't even care if I win, like top 10 would be great.
Mm.
I ended up doing better than I expected.
Yeah, by the way,
Um,
Allie was first runner up to Miss Iowa 2012, and that Miss Iowa ended up being fourth runner up to Miss America. So you're basically like fifth runner
that's
up to
all
Miss
right, it's awesome too.
America.
Oh, thank you. I'll put that on my resume
Yeah, that's
instead.
how I actually equate that, is that you were just fifth runner up
Yeah.
to Miss
Oh,
America.
and Mariah's great too. I'm like,
Yeah. Oh,
that
she's
was everything turned out the way it was supposed to. I was very
yes.
happy with the outcome.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's hard because it's something different for everybody. For
Hmm.
me, it was an incredibly monumentally positive experience. Like
Yeah, totally.
I went in and I was like, I'm doing this my way.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
my only regret was that I didn't keep my bleached blonde hair. That was the only thing I let go. And I was like, you know what? I should have held, like, we should have won. We were 99% very true to self at the time, and I'm okay with
Yeah.
that. But like, it's hard. The pressure that some people experience and face, and the self-criticism,
Hmm.
the stress, like, I'm aware that it's not great for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, I, I feel like it's tough. So part of me is like, is this actually judged on merits or is it judged on who makes the best figurehead for us to get the most publicity as a pageant?
Yeah, totally.
And it's been a while since I've really kept a note and or thumb on it, but
Yeah.
I think I've witnessed a lot of pageants where I've seen people where I was like, how did that woman not win?
Mm-hmm.
What went wrong? And
Yeah.
this is so absurd.
Yeah.
that it hurts watching that.
Yeah.
And I think there's like, let's be honest, a lot of time investment, like a
Hmm.
serious amount of time investment.
Yeah.
There's a financial component to it.
Hmm.
And so I think if we could make equal judging a thing, that'd be great. But it's subjective too. It's like art.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
someone might be like, I fell in love with this contestant. This is it for me. She's
Yeah.
our Miss Iowa, and that's fantastic, or our Miss Florida or Colorado, or whoever.
Yeah.
I it's interesting. I know you talked with someone about the Miss America 2.0.
Yeah.
I might be the only bizarre person that's like, I think swimsuit should have stayed. I
Oh,
don't I
yes.
don't know if, and again, this is only from the standpoint that of my experience.
Yeah.
I felt equally nervous. I'm gonna be honest, no one feels good doing that. It is incredibly stressful. Like, let me go out there almost butt naked on a stage with spotlights and like do my Victoria's Secret walk.
Right. Exactly.
But I will say that that was the one phase of the competition where I was like, if I can do this, I can do anything.
A hundred
And
percent.
like,
Yes.
I didn't know how to walk in heels. Like, dude, this was like the actual miscongeniality trying to figure
Yeah.
this out. And but like I walk away and I'm like, that really challenging 10% of the score, if that, let's be
Hmm.
honest.
Right.
Um, it was, it's like, are you up to the challenge? Can you do
Yeah.
this?
Totally.
And I'm a history nerd too, so I'm like, it's an homage to our predecessors. I like that.
Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, I like the whole premise of getting rid of swimsuit always bothered me. And I don't think I've ever actually like maybe outwardly said this, but I highly disagree with it. And I am in that camp as well, where I think swimsuit should have stayed because now what they have contestants do is they have them wear like teeny bopper cheerleading uniforms and they do a fitness walk. And I go, these women are like people who are studying to be attorneys and doctors and I'm like there's very few things sure that some people would argue are more demeaning than swimsuit and one of them is wearing a cheerleading outfit and doing
No,
a fitness
no,
number.
no,
Like,
sorry,
that is
no.
terrible. Like you picked the worst alternative
It's, I'm
option.
like, you know, I can totally pretend mindset wise that for the evening, I'm on the Victoria's Secret stage, like
Exactly. Yep.
I am woman, you
Yes.
know, I think our coach Melissa was like, this is the I am woman, hear me roar stance. And
Yes.
I was like, yes, I believe that. And I'm gonna be the best damn actor in that swimsuit competition that anyone's ever seen.
Right.
But like,
Yeah.
I can't sell cheerleader, come on.
No.
I'm not the cheerleading type.
No. And the walk is so uncomfortable. Like
I
these
need to
are
check it
girls
out.
that like, yeah, you have to watch it. It's just so uncomfortable because it's like they, the entire competition, they're painting these women as like these strong, intellectual, like lovely women who are grown and they're, making choices for themselves and standing behind platforms that they really value and appreciate. And then you get to fitness and you're like, God damn it. Like where like right. Yeah, like why are we doing a fucking
Yeah,
cheerleading routine when if I were like 25 up on that stage, absolutely not. At least in a swimsuit I could feel like sexy and like,
yeah,
powerful and I could feel like, okay, this isn't a total like, complete
yeah.
fuck for me. But it's like the whole teeny bopper cheerleading outfit. I'm just like, no,
Well, I
girl.
think too, like, there's a wide array of swimsuits that exist today too, that everyone
Yes,
can find one that they feel very comfortable in.
exactly. Yeah.
Like, we've seen all kinds of swimsuits prior to eliminating that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and nobody judged based on what the swimsuit type was. Now, was that
Yeah.
different maybe 20 years ago? For sure,
Right.
but like,
Hmm.
not prior to eliminating that, so I think it was a weird call, and this is the only time
Yeah.
I'm gonna use weird in a skeptical, not great way, but
So
it's
bizarre.
just.
Yeah. Incredibly
I think,
bizarre.
what else is the newest, latest? Miss USA is eliminating all, it's open to all ages, marital
Yes.
status, if you
Yeah.
have children, non-children. I
Yep.
have that's one I have no opinion on because I never did Miss USA and I'm kind of like, whatever.
I did it for like 5 fucking minutes. And honestly, like I just, first of all, I don't ever feel like I will have the look to be in Miss USA. Like I don't say this to sound any which way. I have too, like my face is too different to like look like like for lack of a better term, like I'm so sorry. Every time I look at like the mirage of people who compete at Miss USA, I'm like, she looks the same as this person looks the same as that person. I'm like, you all had headshots done by the same individual who did your makeup in the same, like I'm just like, I will never look like any of you. Like I and that is, they're all very beautiful women and
First of all, you're
but
a
it,
very beautiful woman.
well, you're very sweet, but it's I just
But
it's
I
like
know what you mean.
there's like
I
a
think that the hairstyle is the same, the makeup,
yeah,
like it's kind of like universally applied.
yes, yes,
I think that I like the uniqueness that the Miss America contestants tend to
totally.
have.
Yeah.
I think the most recent Miss America that we just got was Miss Colorado, and she was I'm gonna botch the terminology on this, but like a fighter pilot or something of that nature.
Pilot.
I'm like
Hmm.
badass,
Yeah,
badass. I
fucking
love
cool.
that.
Yeah. And her mom passed from pancreatic cancer, and that's what my uh Ty's dad, my father-in-law, passed away from. So we were both like, fuck yeah, like pancreatic cancer
This is
awareness.
our girl.
We were just like, like it's so like I love hearing, I mean, not like stories like that, but I love hearing like people's personal, connections to their platforms.
Yeah,
Like for me, that's
absolutely.
such a like unique part of the Miss America system. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'll always kind of have my bias towards Miss America. But
totally.
okay, my last one for you. So this one I just kind of was like off the cuff. I was like, I'm just gonna ask her. Like I just think it's kind of fun because we can go back to old times. Okay, so tell me about what you think of baton twirling as a sport. Like when people say it's not a sport. But then I just thought of one more I want to ask you.
Okay, okay, that's okay. I'm here all night. You've got
Perfect.
my attention.
Well, it was either
Um,
baton twirling as a sport or being underage in a bar, and
you can ask me those.
and I think it's
Um,
world peace on both, but I'm speculating here.
yeah, definite world peace for baton. I just, I understand that you can't possibly understand unless you've been exposed to that world and what it's like. But
Yeah,
like, I think it permanently messed up my nose. Like,
100%. Yeah,
this is one of the most, I think it might give cheerleading a run for its money, if not be very close to that. But
yeah.
like, you're throwing a metal stick into the air, doing tricks underneath it,
It's so dangerous.
catching it behind your head, between your legs, upside down, do a flip underneath it. I'm like, this is insane. It's
Yeah,
insane.
it
It's
is.
amazing. And
Yeah,
I like, there's nothing like watching a really amazing baton twirler do their thing.
dude.
Like, it just, it looks like magic. And I go and I watch, like, I love the people who twirl fire when I go see it, but like, it's not the same. Like, it
Yeah,
is not the same as a baton twirler, twirling
yeah,
fire.
yeah.
Like, wow. I don't know how no one's ever won America's Got Talent yet.
Same.
Like, I
I
don't,
know.
the insult that we are not in the Olympics,
I know.
insult, utter
Yeah.
insult that we are not in the Olympics. And yet there's no disrespect, but ribbon baton.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Can we
Yeah.
talk about this?
No, yeah. That's literally insane.
So
I'm so
I
glad
would
you feel the
certainly
same
have more peace, and I think the baton twirlers of the world would have more peace if baton twirling was more respected, because it's just incredible. It's awesome. I'm a big
I
fan.
my mom and I went to South Bend this year for we went to watch nationals over the summer and we were kind of like my mom was sort of like, well, it might be like the last year, like if what if you have kids in the next year, like, then you'll get busy, blah blah blah. And I was like, first of all, relax. And second of all, like we'll take that. I'm not just gonna like, stop living
We'll
my
figure
life
it out when
because
it
I have
happens.
children.
Yeah.
Yeah. But whatever. So she's like, let's go and watch nationals. And so we went during the week of my birthday. We went to the national baton twirling competition. It was so fun. And being able to like watch the senior, like incredible and like insanely advanced people twirl, I was just like, Dude, this shit, I understand why I was like so obsessed with this. Like this it made me want to go home and twirl again. I was like, "Oh my God, this is so amazing." Like
It's so funny because I realized that like I like performing.
yeah.
I like entertaining.
Yeah.
Was it baton or was it I love dancing to rock music and putting on a show and like
Exactly.
doing
Yeah.
something funny and seeing people react to that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just it's a performing is a very fun energy. But I'm
Yeah.
also like baton twirling has a lot of bling in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean just the costumes
The best of both
alone,
worlds. Yeah.
the costumes, the like the
Oh,
makeup, the theatrics, like it's
yes.
really cool.
Yeah.
And I also think it's really cool how many little like entrepreneurs, I shouldn't say little. I'm
Yeah.
thinking of the little booths they have, and that's why I said
Yeah. Oh
that.
my God.
But
Yeah.
all of the people who do like baton specific
Yeah.
businesses and
Yeah.
all of their jewelry, I'm like, this is just so cool. I could just shop here all
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's one of the best parts about going back to like a competition is seeing like the costumes and being like, oh my God, I love that costume, or look at that girl's outfit. Like, you're like, of course I'm
Oh
not gonna
yeah.
I can wear them again, but like they're very pretty to look
I
at.
remember, I remember in particular seeing a baton twirler I really loved and admired, and
Yeah.
then finding out her baton costume was for sale. I
Oh yeah.
definitely bought it.
Oh,
I
for
was like,
sure.
this, I need
Yeah.
the magic from this
Yeah.
baton twirler in my costume. Did not work, but
Exactly.
it was cool to be.
Yeah, exactly. Amazing. Oh, Allie, thank you so much for just being here and for all of your wisdom and for sharing all of the things with me. This has been so fun to catch up. Before you go though, please tell everybody where they can find you, plug all your shit, website, Instagram, TikTok if you got it, whatever the fuck you want. Now is your time.
Beautiful. Thank you. Well, thank you for having me too. I had a lot of
Of
fun.
course.
We need to just catch up on a more
Yes.
regular
Yeah,
basis
we do,
moving
for sure.
forward. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram at ADMAE Diamonds with an S. That is ADMA Diamonds. That's my business name. My website is the exact same, just www.admadiamonds.com. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm missing. The website tells a lot about what I do and what my process looks like. Or if you ever have any questions, you can definitely send me a message or an email on Instagram or my website. I am starting a new thing, test running it for this month, where if you have a design idea, so if you want to design your engagement ring, you want, I don't know, a badass bracelet, set of earrings, if you want to repurpose a ring or piece of jewelry you already have, um, men's rings, anything, basically anything jewelry related. If you would like to design a piece of jewelry with me, I am doing free design sessions along with sketches.
Nice.
So we will sit down together for your vision, and at the end of that, you will have a single sketch. And if you want to do anything with that further, we can create it for you. Or if you're like, I just want to hold on to this for a while and maybe someday, that is open and on the table too. So if you're interested, send me a message and look forward to meeting you guys.
So cool. Oh, thank you so much, Ellie.
Yeah, thank you.